السلام عليكم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين صلوات.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I would like to start with some questions, inshallah. Before I start with questions, there is one surah that is reminding us in the Quran about the relationship or about the beauty of having a child. And that was sent down about Sayyida Fatima alayhi salam. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, He does not only directly speak to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, He is also talking to us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks and says to Rasulullah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. Just take that, إنا أعطيناك الكوثر, and let's take that only first verse of that surah. The Kawthar, as we all, as the scholars have translated it, is a river in the heavens. It's a precious thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that precious thing is also a child, right? So having a child is a very precious thing to have, right? But we have to take care of that precious thing in order for us to move forward together, as the title indicates, the relationship between the father and the mother and the child. Okay, it could be a blessed journey towards the beloved, or it could be technically a path to hell. Simple as that. Yes, there are mediums. There are somewhere in the middle of the struggle, but eventually, either we go that direction, or we go that direction. So we, in this world, we struggle in order to bring about, the direction of the family into what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has intended to be. And that relationship starts with a definition. I want to define what a relationship is. The relationship, what it means is the being connected through some shared values, thoughts, actions, and feelings. So as a family, right, belonging to Islam, being part of the Muslim community, we share certain values with our children. We share certain values with the community, and we think in a certain ways. We also share certain thoughts, and we behave in a certain way, and also we have certain feelings towards certain things, right? So these shared values constitute a relationship, as a whole. And relationships are built through some sort of an interaction. If there is no interaction, there will be no relationships. Right? There has to be some sort of an interactions in order to have a relationship. Because if you take my two hands, these two hands can have a relationship. And the relationship, they cannot clap by themselves, right? I mean, a hand cannot clap by itself. It's just in a vacuum. But if you take these two hands and clap, then there is some sort of a communication. It is creating some sort of an echo as a sound. And these two hands are communicating, and the communication is an effect of that interaction. Also, the relationships are built on communication and how we communicate with each other, all right? And the knowledge, because communications leads to knowledge. When I communicate with my child, or the child communicates with me, as a matter of fact, in any relationship, when there's communication, then you begin to acquire knowledge about the person, and also you begin to acquire knowledge about yourself. How do you react into certain events, how you react to certain statements, how do you react to certain actions, and how do you react to certain feelings, certain actions, certain values when you interact, with your child and the child react with you. And also sharing that knowledge in a respectful and a compassionate manner. And the reason I did a little bit of research, and the research from an Islamic perspective, compassion is the foundation of any relationship. Okay? And the compassion spreads out, Sallallahu Alaihi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Compassion, okay, is kind of an extraction from love. Okay, so you're gonna find me talking about love and compassion, using the terms meaning the same thing. If communication is based on respect, acceptance, open and peaceful dialogue, and love is the basis of, then that relation becomes the basis of a very constructive relationship. So the foundation of a relationship is love. Okay? Now, love for the unit, love for that relationship, love for the interaction, love for these thoughts. Not only loving your child at your expense or loving yourself at the expense of your child. There has to be some sort of balance, because in the Quran, okay, we are reminded about the balance. We are reminding about creating some sort of a balance in the relationship. So if you do things at the expense of the child, then what's going to happen? The child will end up suffering. And if you do things also if you do things at your expense, you are going to end up suffering. And at the same time, what's going to happen? The child is going to suffer. The relationship is going to suffer. So we have to somehow create some sort of a balanced relationship based upon love, respect, and compassion. And this is not only between parent and child. This could be between sisters, between brothers, between brother and sister, between husband and wife. I mean, it's a basic universal foundation of a relationship. Now, if communication is based on disrespect, violence, anger, oppression, injustice, that definitely will lead to a destructive relationship, right? We, as human beings, we go through a lot of challenges in our lives, and there are times where these challenges lead us to become angry, or to become violent, or to become destructive in a certain way, whether it's verbally or physically, or unintentionally or intentionally. But these challenges may lead us to that directions if we don't have in our mind always set the mind that love is the foundation of a constructive relationship. Even when we have a disagreement, even when we have a conflict, even when we have some sort of a different in opinions, different ideas, especially with our children as they grow. The parents and the children live in a completely different, pretty much time to a certain extent, and I will elaborate on that later on. All right, parent-child relationship, it is, according to the study, is the most profound and influential relationships that ever exist. And why is it? Because when your child is born, no one can tell you. I mean, the majority of the people, they have pleasure. They are happy to have this precious creature coming into your life, and that creature changes your life in a certain way. It changes your life, even if the child comes despite of you not planning it, and there is some sort of a bond, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that natural bond between the child and the parent. Okay. In order to build a strong relationship with your child, you need to learn and gain knowledge about that child. Okay. From the time the child, first of all, the knowledge is gained in the womb between the mother and the baby. Communication is an ongoing process between the mother and the baby, right? We as men we are not aware of it, but I have spoken to many mothers and my wife. There is always a communication. The kicking is one way of communication. the way the child moves in a certain way, or when the mother does certain things and the child moves. The communication begins in the womb, right? That communication, if it is constructive and if it is compassionate, if it's loving from the part of the mother, the caretaker, then when the child is born, the child is born in a very safe, is born safely, it's born in a very safe environment. Okay? If you have more than one child, you need to remember that each child is different in abilities and development, communication, and overall personality traits. That's where we parents, okay, fail, most of us. We want to put our children in one box. We want to treat them all equally. One may use emotions in communication. One may be using verbal communication. One is more intellectual. One's maybe more creative. It is our responsibility to understand, the different traits, the different abilities, the different way of our child communicating to us if we have more than one child, because there's no way you can fit, your children in one box and treat them the same, or communicating with them in the same way. It's an impossibility, because every child is unique. Every child, even according to, right now they're finding, even according to research, they're finding that twins, how close they are, okay, they still have differences in communication. They still have differences in traits. They have differences in the way they develop. Some may be developed differently than others. And as a matter of fact, research have shown in schools, okay, that development, learning right now, learning process is based upon differences in learning abilities. There are a lot of differences in how we learn, right? And they're beginning to say we cannot put the whole classroom in a box and teach, the same thing. We need to create some individualized curriculum, and that to teach our children in the classroom. That also applies to parents, okay? But the classroom has maybe 15, 20, 30 students, and in your family you may have at the most, 4 or 5. I'm a father of 8, right? And alhamdulillah, I've had an excellent relationship with my children, with the the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My children range from 35 years old to about 7. So right? And each one of them, as they grew, we had a phenomenal relationship. There has been ups and downs, and there will always be ups and downs, and these were turned into a positive relationship. All right, let's move on. Most parents-child relationship literatures recommend parents to spend time with their children. And we live in a time where we always find ways to say, I don't have time. Okay? We, as parents, overall, I'm not talking about here in the audience, but overall, finding time to spend with our children is the foundation of a really exceptional relationship. And if you have more than one child, it is necessary to spend time with each separately in addition to being together. So once you begin to have more than one child, you need to find time to spend with each child separate as well, in addition to having time to work as a group. Sometimes you may go on a hike, or you may go to the park, or whatever, when you spend time. During that time, if you don't find time to spend with your child separately, this is the time where you can play with your child, with one of the child, and move to the other ones, and so that will be probably considered part of the individualized working with your child at the individual level as well. Quality time such as play, conversation, participating in outside activities, and being involved in their school life builds a constructive, positive, and strong bonds between child and parents. As you can see, conversation is extremely important. Why conversation is extremely important? We talked about communication. Okay, there's love and the communication. These two are two wings, okay, that the parents should have to use. And there have to be some sort of a balance. These two wings you need to use in order to really have a constructive relationship. Love and communication, okay? And also outside activities. It's not enough for us to sit at home and have our children, or watch the TV with our children, watch a movie with our children. But the outdoor activities is extremely important. And as a society, and I'm not saying only here, we live in a time where technology has taken over our lives. And when technology taken over our lives, we begin to forget that there is an environment out there that is God's creation, the natural environments, the water, the ocean, the mountains, the rivers, the birds, the butterflies, all kinds of creatures out there. If we are connected to them, this is the foundation. You will begin to really realize how your child is bonding with you. And it's a very subtle, incredible bond that you are unaware of, but it brings some sort of a peaceful relationship when you spend a lot of time in the outdoors. Play is another way of communicating, of building a relationship. It's a very powerful tool. And also, not only you build a relationship, but you sustain that relationship. Playing with your child helps him or her discover themselves, and I'll tell you how. Develops focus, creativity, communication, and independence. Learn to follow rules and develop disciplines. And learn to communicate feeling in a constructive manner. And also learn how to make decisions on their own. When you play a game with your child, let's say any board game, for example, okay, you and your child are pretty much at the same level. They're making their own decision in the game, all right? They're beginning to feel, they are empowered to make decisions. It teaches them how to be independent in their decisions, right? And at the same time, there are certain rules in the game, so they begin to learn rules, right? And playing, tumbling, have them wrestling with parents, let them, ride you, or run in the house, or things like this. Becoming a little playful in a way. Also, it creates some sort of a sense of constructive relationship, and it helps the child, come up with certain independence, and also create solutions in how they're going to be playing with, how they deal with you, how you deal with that. And you learn their personality, you learn how the child reacts to certain things as well. And at the same time, the child is learning about you. The child is gaining knowledge about you as they grow. Because the child is at a young age, is developing. And as they develop, they move forward into understanding their environment. And you are the environment in which they live. And you are the most important part of that environment. So they will learn more as they interact with you and they understand. And you will be surprised how much your children and how much the children know about their parents without their parents knowing that they know, their parents. Parents who play with children, and now there's an effect on you, right? You begin to understand your child's feeling. You begin to understand your child's thoughts. You begin to understand their child's interest, what kind of interest they have. So you can help them develop and move forward in the right directions when they are growing up. It imparts values that help your children interacting with their siblings, friends, and schools. When you play with your children, there are certain mistakes they may make. It is your role to correct those mistakes, to impart the right values. So when you impart these values, they become internalized in the child, and then when they interact with their friends, their siblings, and and people in the community or in the schools, they are using these values that you have imparted in them in their interactions, in the social interactions. You begin to learn how your children react to failures, right? Failures do exist. We all have failed in our lives. And you begin to learn how they react to failures, and you can help them, how to deal with these failures. And also successes and how they deal with these challenges. You gain knowledge about how the child learns, and above all, you build a very special bond with the child. It's based upon love. That bond is so powerful. Okay? No matter how far, when they grow up, and no matter how far, that bond is very, very, very strong. And there is a sense of love and compassion and respect, and there's always communication going on as far as that is concerned. Playing should be also fun. Sometimes we parents become children, okay? And it's okay to become a child, but you need to make sure that when the child beats you, you don't get upset, right? You need to be a good loser. So you don't bring your level at the child and begins to argue with the child because you lost the game or something like that. It has to be fun. They need to feel the sense. And sometimes your ability are better than theirs. For example, if I want to play basketball with my children and I'm a good basketball player, I'm not going to use my abilities, the abilities that I know. Otherwise, what's gonna do? It's gonna really destroy their confidence. So you need to play at that level so you can boost their confidence. Play is there also to elevate and to introduce to them that they are capable of learning without feeling threatened by this strong man or strong woman, giant man, giant woman standing before them. By probably the time they are 16 or 17, and if they probably have a better ability than you, and they'll beat you at that time, right? So if they beat you, and that is okay, because now you're growing a little older, and your child has gained some more abilities, and that goes on. That goes with anything, with learning computers, learning math, learning all things. That your children may be more. They may have knowledge better than you, and it is okay for you to seek help from them. Nothing wrong with you as a parent saying, well, I'm the parent, I know it all. No, you don't. No one has this formula of know it all. Okay? Children, when they grow and develop, they have more knowledge in certain things than you. Yes, you may have knowledge in how to be a parent and how you parent, but there's that respect. Once you begin to respect their abilities and you begin to respect how their personality and them, then the respect is what? Is reciprocated. You become a mirror to them, and they become a mirror to you. And that's very powerful when we talk about the love and the bond that exists between the child and the parent. Play has to be positive, and look forward to play. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. The more you find the time to play with your child, the easier you understand each other. Okay? Playing with your child makes parenting a positive learning experience for the parent as well, okay? And the child. When I play with my children, from their age, I still, my children are tumbled. I still, sometimes I play with my children. I hug, I do a little bit of boxing, whatever. I mean, even though they live in when they visit, it's this camaraderie that exists. And I'm sure when they're with the siblings, they have. The boys, like to wrestle, they like to be a little bit physical. So I understand what my child is, and we play a little bit. It's not like something that we do on a regular basis, but it's still, that relationship is still there, okay? And physical contact is extremely important. Hugging. It is a miracle. Hugging is one of the most powerful, right? And no matter how old your child is, it's okay to hug your child. It is okay to hug your child. I know some, I'm a principal of school, and some of the kids come and ask me, say, do you hug your, they see me because I have my children, the younger ones are in the school, and I hug them. And say, you hug your children? Of course I do. And when my children visit me, it's not only a hug, hello. It's a nice, squeezy, loving hug. Okay? So hugging is a very powerful tool as well, because we human beings, we like to feel. We communicate through the skin. That body of ours, we vibrate, and when we vibrate that loving and hugging, when conflict exists, we remember these times. We remember that bond. We remember that love. Then we become a little bit better in communicating. We become a little bit better and easier in communicating our conflicts. Conversation is the most important tool that parent and child get to know each other. The conversation should. and these are some of the requirements: promote expression of feelings, facilitate exploration and identity building, identify problems and solve conflicts, communicate interest, understanding, and empathy. It is very important to keep these goals in mind as you engage in conversation with your child or teen, as it is easy to digress into disciplinary problems. I want to stop here. As a parent, if I'm having a communication with my child, I need to understand that I need to come with an open-minded. Yes, I am the parent, and the child knows that. I don't have to say, well, I am your father, and you better listen to me. Okay? That's not going to get anywhere. Right? We need, when we communicate, we have to communicate, listen to the child. Because if we listen to the child is going to listen to us. It's just a simple rule. When we listen to others, others are going to listen to us. But if we want everybody to listen to us and we don't want to listen to everybody else, we're going to have problem in communication. Definitely is going to be an issue, right? So do not, when you're communicating, talking, don't involve discipline here, because you're not disciplining, you are conversing, right? And a conversation, it has to be a two-way street. Do not criticize your child. Okay? If you criticize your child, you're going to create a barrier. And once you create a barrier, the child is not going to trust you. They're not going to come to you and talk to you anymore. Right? My children, we pretty much talk about almost everything they want. As a matter of fact, even if they have problems, I don't force them to come and talk to me. Right? I want to make sure that they feel comfortable. They can come to me. And the same thing. And sometimes they see me sometimes tired, or I am sick. They are reciprocating that same feeling. And then I may be stressed out. They are when they become older, they begin to pay me back. They begin to talk to me in a respectful manner. They begin to help me out as well. Okay? The kind of conversation should create an atmosphere of exploration. Now, why exploration? Because when you communicate, as I said previously, what are we doing? We are finding out about who we are. You're finding out about who you are as a parent, and you're finding about who the child is, and the child is finding out about themselves and also about you. So it is an exploration. It's a journey into exploring, that relationship. And giving quality to it. Though I would suggest that it is helpful to be more of a listener and let the child do most of the talking. Avoid drifting into lectures. This is a very deadly and will probably defeat the process. Okay? And remember, your job is to listen and facilitate. You need to remember that. It's to listen and to facilitate. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, my personal, I want to discuss a little about my personal experience. I've been going outdoor activities with my children since they are born. Okay? By the time they're really baby, I used to carry my children on. I have this backpack and I just go hiking. Right? All my children started very young. They even didn't walk yet. Okay? That outdoor is, for example, going into the park, going on field trips, going to the movies, most of all spending time in the natural environment, whether it's going to the beach, hiking, whether down into the valleys or up to the top of the mountains. Being away from that everyday life has taught me, okay, this is the most important part of bonding. Why? Because I am completely outside of the element of a daily life, right? And once we are outside, when we're in the environment, first of all, it's a very peaceful. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this environment for us to have support from it in a very peaceful way, right? Second of all, you're completely outside of the home, the routines that you have on a daily basis. And when you are outside of that, I've seen when we go camping with some of these, with my students when I take them, there's a greater bond. okay? Because they're outside of their element. When they're outside of their element, they need to work together as a team. So you and child begin to work as a team without even you knowing it, okay? And that's a very powerful way of basically connecting and relating with your children. Also, you find for me, my experience is the peace of serenity of the natural environment is so contagious that it permeates our relationship in many, many subtle ways, okay? These are the most memorable times for us, and if some of you know my children, you can ask them. I mean, I still have my children reminding me about these on regular basis. They don't remind me of certain issues, what happened at home. They always remind me about, these experiences when we went hiking, or when we went to the beach, or when we went to the park, played together, right, and so forth. These are the things that I am reminded by my children as they became older. Even the younger ones, they always remind, do you remember this? So it definitely has left an impact on them, and it has left an impact that working together in a completely outside environment than the home makes a difference. Right. Conclusion. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, children are blessed light in the world and bliss in the hereafter. He is not of us who does not have mercy on young children, nor honor the elderly. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, I want to basically stop right here. He said, remind us to teach our children their way before Ahlul Bayt's way, before others teach their way, yani others than Ahlul Bayt. And this is a very, very powerful statement, right? And we need to really take it seriously. And I have seen, as a principal, I have seen that problem existing between parent and children. I have had parents come and say, I thought I knew my child. Okay, I didn't know my child was doing this, right? Because the communication was not there. And at the same time, we were not teaching them the correct way, right? And also, the trust was completely, cut off. So where do you think, when your child is in that situation, where do you think your child is going to get help? Is going to get that help from outside the house, because the trust is not there. You're going to get it from the peers or an adult that probably does not believe the way you believe, does not have the same values of them. That's going to create for sure, some issues and some difficulties. And I always read this piece from the Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and it reminds me that beautiful relationship between child and parents. He says, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. They come through you, but not from them. And although they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. It's beautiful. You are the bow. Okay? You are the bow. Okay? From which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, sees the mark upon the path of the infinite. And He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bends you with His might, that His arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. Do not fight that bending. Follow the path. Trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let Allah guide you. Let the light of Allah and the Prophet Ahlul Bayt guide you. There are so many that we can learn and take these guidance into your action, put in your action. For even He loves the arrows that flies. Allah loves your children, so He loves the bow that is stable, and that's you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is full of love, loves you and loves your children. And imagine that this archer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, helping you stretch into the future with that love. Now, what I did, I have some references, and these are a couple of references online you may have, and there's a lot of literature about these, about parent-child relationship online. It is not something that is not readily available. It is, alhamdulillah, the internet, the creation of the internet is so powerful that could be used to help us in many, many ways, and also could be used into destroying us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, I want to share a couple of things with you before we close in, and then we'll open questions. This is some of the things. We took some pictures. We took everywhere. So I see one of my daughters. She saw an ant or something and tried to watch it and look at it. There is my son, the youngest one. Okay, I don't know, he's playing some sort of a game. He has a stick, and God knows what he's doing. But he was basically, we were on a trip, and then we ended up being in a beautiful natural park. And just whenever there's snow, we go out in the snow and we play. I was probably in the background. We played, and as you can see them, having a good time. And then also we find all different kinds of creatures, and they like to take pictures, and then they do, they've taken the pictures. As a matter of fact, this one is digging some sort of hole, trying to lay eggs. And that's the youngest one. Right. I think we are at the beach here. And this is one of my boys from Dearborn. This is Hamad. Anytime he wants to say, Baba, I want to go hiking, okay? Just give me. They don't want to go to the mall. They don't want to go to the movies. They want to go hiking. That's basically where we spend our time. So we end up going hiking, with their younger brother and sisters. Is in somewhere in the lake. Right. Having said that and shared some of these things with you, I hope it was informative and I hope it was helpful. Thank you for your attention. May Allah bless you. If you need any help, I can give you my email as well. I'm always at your service. It's very simple. It's Sami, S-A-M-I, Hijazi, Hijazi, 1, the number 1, @gmail.com. Having said that, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.